If you like what I do, consider supporting me on Ko-fi or Patreon. Links in the description.
Hello there! Are you looking to tour these ruins? Lucky for you, I happen to be a tour guide. I'd be happy to show you around. I do have a few rules to follow. Please don't touch any statues, and also don't damage the plants. I think there one more rule I'm forgetting. Yes. Also, please do not unleash the captured spirits of 1,000 deadly beasts trapped in a tomb at the depths of the ruins. Did you get all that? Yup. Don't unleash plant statues. Is there an adult I can speak to? My sword tastes funny.
Welcome to video number 2 of our Thompson Brothers Triple Feature. As we move along with these videos, I'm going to assume you've already watched the prior videos in the Triple Feature in an attempt to not be too redundant when I talk about aspects that overlap in each of Kyle's games. You certainly don't have to watch these videos in a specific order. Just know I might be more brief with descriptions and explanations because I've delved deeper into these concepts in prior videos. And I don't want to bore people more than I have to. I preface this video thusly because I'm skipping Kyle and Eric's introductions. Just know that Kyle is the one-man dev team behind the games, and Eric is his brother who provides each game's incredible soundtrack. I'm a huge fan of both, and if you want to hear me gush about them in more detail, check out my Sheepo video. Card incoming. Let's talk about Islets. And let me be clear, I love Islets. I believe it to be the quintessential Thomas Brothers experience. So if you at all liked Sheepo or Crypt Custodian and somehow haven't played Islets, now's your chance. The perfect time to have played Islets would have been when it first came out. The second perfect time is right now. So what is Islets? Islets tells the story of Eco, a young, derpy-looking warrior on a quest to reunite a series of floating islands that have long since drifted apart. Now, beasts roam the lands, antagonizing the innocent, thus creating a surplus of adventurers to thwart the beasts, protect the innocent, and, possibly, reunite the 5 islands. With a hand-painted art style, a heartfelt narrative, and a very interesting character progression system, Islets delivers a wholesome experience that is both challenging and rewarding. But how does it stack up against other Metroidvanias?
Combat.
I like Islets' combat a lot. It's simple and easy to understand. This is a common theme you're going to pick up in all of Kyle's works. I'd say Crypt Custodian's combat is better, but we can all agree Islets' combat is superior to Sheepo's. Alright, pause for laughter over esoteric joke that maybe 3 people will laugh at. And moving on. Your little dude Eco can stab things with his little sword and shoot things with his little bow. It's as adorable as it is dangerous. Eco doesn't have any kind of combos, though damage increases with successive hits. He just kind of keeps stabbing stuff until they die, which is a pretty effective strategy, I guess. You can stab them on the ground, stab them in the air, all kinds of stabbing. It's just funny looking, only having the one animation. Adds to the game's charm. Eco's little bow is fantastic. It fires quickly, has a slight homing effect, and just looks pretty. You only have so many shots, but you can easily refill these shots with a good old stabbing. One successful stab equals 1 more arrow in the quiver. It's a simple mechanic that adds a lot to combat. And with just how fast Eco moves, you can really keep the pressure on enemies. Run in for some stabs, roll away, stick them with some arrows, reload with some more stabbing, then run away and pin them again. It's incredibly satisfying. And the speed at which you can do this makes it even more so. That's my favorite thing about Islets and what really brings combat together. Eco is fast as boy. This translates well to platforming too, but more on that later. Eco sure does like stabbing stuff, but it's not his only means of murder. He gains a ground pound for some high impact stabbing, and he gets a plethora of upgrades that do all kinds of crazy things, like adding a wave of destruction to your ground pounds, making enemies explode into harmful projectiles, or firing free arrows when you double jump. But more on all upgrades in the progression section. Islets boss fights are a definite highlight. I didn't find them too challenging, but most were multi-phase affairs that switched things up mid-fight to keep you on your toes. And they were all very engaging, meaning I had to stay locked in if I wanted to beat them. There's no face tanking in Islets, mostly because bosses tend to shoot a bunch of crap at you. And just about any given boss fight, the screen will be full of red projectiles, much like a shmup. Though, in Islets, you'll have the unfortunate addition of gravity to contend with. But at least Eco has a roll with iframes. Unless you're fighting a boss in your airship, then you literally are playing a shmup. But you don't start with a weapon, and that's kind of a problem. Overall, Whether you're fighting on the ground or in the air, boss fights were a lot of fun. And that's going to do it for combat. You stab, you shoot arrows, you stab to get more arrows to shoot, and you can get upgrades that add just so much weirdness to your repertoire. It's a simple system that's only made better by how fast Ico can get when he's let loose.
Abilities. Platforming.
Ico's abilities are pretty sweet. He has your expected double jump and ground pound, but he also gets a few unique abilities in his special arrows. My favorite being the cloud arrow. It has a couple of uses. First, it can be used to make platforms to run on or to get to higher ground. And second, it can be used as a shield against specific red projectiles. This is great, but I wish there were a way to differentiate between which red projectiles could be blocked and which ones couldn't. My only guess is that the cloud couldn't stop pointy projectiles. There are other unique abilities Ico gets, but I'll leave those for you to discover. When it comes to platforming, Islets makes it fun. Like I said earlier, Ico is fast as boy, and when speed and platforming mix, you're gonna have a good time. There are lots of cool challenges and interesting gimmicks to be found in each biome. May it be logs on chains that move when you touch them, or a super jump you can only use once before needing to recharge. But when Islet's at its best, you're probably stabbing things. Stabbing these white orbs keeps Ico aloft and is a lot of fun. There's also timed challenges you can tackle for rewards, and if you mess them up, you can always restart without any penalties. Islets knows when to mix things up and keep things fresh, and everything it throws at you is relatively stress-free. This is a Kyle Thompson game after all. We're here to vibe, chill, and have fun. Another obstacle you'll find along the way are these blue doors that cost money to open, or whatever this blue currency is. Souls? Are you collecting souls, Ico? That's it for this section. Ico's more unique abilities are impressive, and platforming is pretty good with environmental objects to play with, gimmicks to master, and a whole lot of speed.
Progression.
Progression in Islets is very odd, but what else did you expect at this point? Upgrading Ico is kind of roguelike-esque. He doesn't level up with XP or have gear, though you can buy some upgrades at a shop in the overworld. Instead, Ico's upgrades are random. You find icons of your head while exploring, and these icons are either hidden or given as rewards for completing challenges. Each time you obtain an icon, you get 3 choices, and these choices are all over the place. You could get an increase to your melee damage, or gain more arrow ammo, or shoot arrows when you double jump, or create a destructive wave when you ground pound, or a plethora of other seemingly random yet cool attributes. You can even get choices to unlock story elements. You never really know what you're gonna get when you collect one of these icons, and that's what makes them so fun. I don't normally like RNG in my MVs, but this I liked. These icons were your main source of player expression, and the randomness guarantees no 2 playthroughs are gonna be the same. And randomized player expression I find acceptable in an MV. I'm just not a fan of mixing up the map. One of the main draws to MVs is familiarizing yourself with the world. And if the world is ever changing, it kinda defeats the purpose of MVs. But that's a topic for another video. Ico can also upgrade his airship with these icons if you choose. Ico gets an airship early in the game to traverse the overworld and enter islands, but it doesn't do much at first. Thankfully, this is a Metroidvania, and by the end of the game, it's gonna be sweet as hell. But I don't want to spoil its abilities. Just know you can find items in the game to enhance your airship along the way. And of course, with more enhancements, you'll be able to fly to more islands. That's it for progression. Islets is very much a Metroid-like with very little RPG elements, but the randomized upgrades are a nice touch.
Exploration.
Exploration in Islets is pretty good, but it does do a pretty amazing conventional twist. The game's main conceit is that there are 5 islands that once were united by huge magnets, but then something happened to separate the islands, and now adventurers are doing their best to bring the islands back together. Not only is this a neat concept, but it's executed so well. The different islands are the game's different biomes, and you can choose which islands you want to go to in the overworld, pending you've unlocked the island. However, as you progress in the game and reactivate its island's magnetic cores, the islands will merge back together, creating an interconnected world we're so used to seeing in traditional Metroidvanias. That's cool and all, actually reuniting the islands, but this reunification has more than just story implications. Reconnecting these islands opens up new paths in those biomes you must explore in order to progress the game. What an absolutely incredible means of progress gating in a Metroidvania, through recontextualization. It's genius in so many ways. I actually hate Kyle for his genius. And what makes this merging of islands even more impressive is how they flow into one another. I mentioned earlier each island is a biome, but that's not entirely accurate. Each island is made of many biomes, and these biomes quote-unquote leak into other islands. For instance, Island A and Island B will have 2 halves of the same biome. and reconnecting the islands makes that biome whole. It can be kind of a head trip exploring a reunited biome after getting used to it being half the size. It's such a cool idea that was implemented so well. And so we ask ourselves the question we always ask ourselves in this section: is exploration rewarding? You bet your derpy little mouse face it is. Not just for the genius use of recontextualization, but for all the oddities you'll experience along your journey. Wacky and funny characters, silly scenarios, astonishing backdrops, collectibles like the randomized upgrade icon, hidden rooms, loot caches. There's always something around the bend to get excited over. And the game provides all the tools you need to 100% it. One of the overworld shops sells map markers that pin everything you'd want to see or discover on your map, even the upgrade icons, and hovering over an island with your airship shows you what you've found there and what still needs to be discovered. And any backtracking you'll have to do is made easy with the game's fast travel system, a series of teleport doors, plus eco is fast as. My one critique would have to be the level design. It's just so boxy, perpendicular and parallel surfaces everywhere, not a single slope to be seen. It makes everything feel inorganic. It's not terrible, you see this kind of level design in so many MVs. I just prefer more varied surfaces. It makes the world feel more genuine.
Atmosphere. Narrative.
If you've watched my Sheepo review, you know exactly what I'm going to say here. Thompson Brothers games excel at atmosphere. I'll be brief as I've already talked about why Kyle and Eric's games' atmospheres are so unique in my Sheepo review. Character designs are so ugly they're cute, the environments permeate with childlike wonder, and there's a pervading sense of innocence throughout every aspect of the game, especially in its humor. And Eric's soundtrack, like always, creates the perfect tone for a surreal adventure. What makes Islets so unique is how grounded in reality it is, despite it being a fantasy game full of anthropomorphic creatures living on floating islands. This isn't sci-fi or supernatural fiction. This is a straight-up hero's journey starring an underdog that has to grow and earn the respect of his peers, as well as set a good example for fellow adventurers. We've pretty much entered narrative territory at this point, so why not make it official? Islets' narrative is fantastic. Easily Kyle's best work. Eco, despite not speaking at all and only having a couple moments when we see inside his head through his writing, is very likable and relatable. In our first moments with Eco, we simultaneously see how strong and weak he is. He's set off to be an adventurer, but things haven't panned out the way he's hoped. And though he wants to share his struggles with his hometown friend via a letter, he instead lets pride guide his pen. And we see our little derpy mouse mask his shame with a lie. It's just as Uncle Iroh said.
Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. True humility is the only antidote to shame.
Then we meet Snoot, Islet's resident bully and just all-around best boy. He comes in all snobby-like, doles out some backhanded insults, and unintentionally tears Eco's ship apart. Now, we get to see Eco use his pride to manifest courage that pushes him onward. And I gotta say, seeing Pride's duality of being a weakness and a strength in just a few short minutes is masterful and sets up the game's tone brilliantly. And of course, you meet all sorts of characters that act as Eco's foils, such as the cowardly Greybird who grows through his admiration of Eco's courage. Heck, even Snoot grows by the end, if only a little bit. The only other things I can say about this game's narrative is that I found so much of the dialogue and situations genuinely funny. And I loved these characters so much that the little scrapbook presented at the end of the game had me choking up a little. But also laughing because Goba's pictures are hilarious. He always draws Eco so ugly. So yeah, Islet's narrative is outstanding. It's not going to blow your mind with an unpredictable twist or make you philosophize in any way, but it will make you laugh and you will fall in love with its characters because they genuinely grow and are just fun. And Goba is just ridiculous. And Snoot. He's just best boy. There is only one ending, but there's a slight post-game that's a treat for anyone who loved Islet's world. In conclusion, Islet's atmosphere and narrative are top tier thanks to Kyle's lovable characters, great sense of humor, and artful writing. And Eric's exquisite soundtrack. Islets is the Thompson brothers at their finest.
Final thoughts and score.
Islets is a delightful Metroidvania that combines simplistic yet engaging combat, interesting platforming, and rewarding exploration into a cohesive and enjoyable experience. Its charming art style, heartfelt narrative, and satisfying gameplay make it a standout title in the genre. Whether you're a fan of Metroidvanias or simply looking for a game with a lot of humor and heart, Islets is well worth your time. I award Islets an 8.5 out of 10.
Tier placement.
Islets takes conventional Metroidvania staples like having an interconnected world and character progression and flips them on their head in refreshing, innovative ways that enhances exploration and combat. And it's just all around fun with a great little story. Islets floats comfortably in the A tier. Islets offers a polished and heartfelt experience that stands alongside some of the best titles while also carving its own identity by experimenting with convention. Its charming atmosphere and simple yet engaging gameplay make it a Metroidvania not to be missed by vets or noobs alike. Don't be like our best boy Snoot here and sleep on Islets.
Help.